Welcome everyone. I'm Stuti and I'm your host for the Because She Can podcast. Join us as we bring to you powerful stories of remarkable individuals who share with us their triumphs, the obstacles they faced, and the invaluable lessons they have learned along the way. Today in the studio, we have a remarkable guest with us. Pooja is the brains behind the Sarvodya collective and the inclusive Duniya initiatives that work to build awareness around intellectual disabilities. The voluntary engagement program has been part of Eivolve incubator hosted by India Welfare Trust. She truly defined what it means to lead a life filled with purpose and service. I can't wait to kickstart this conversation with her. So please welcome Pooja to the Because She Can podcast.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me here.
Thank you for being here, Pooja. Uh, Pooja, your life has been defined by very unique life choices. But before we delve into that, I want to start at the beginning because I truly believe that the person we become as we grow is always somewhere engraved in our childhood. You've had a very interesting childhood. Your father served in the Indian Army, so you were an army brat. And I do understand what that comes with because my mom was an Air Force officer's daughter. And it involves a lot of uprooting and a lot of moving around where you're forced to leave cities and friends behind. But I believe that also must have shaped your character in a certain way. So can you please tell us a little bit about your childhood? What was it like? And looking back, how do you feel that has shaped you to be the woman you are today?
Thank you for that question and for recognizing that we grow up to become who we started out with as a sapling. So you're right, my father was in the army and we grew up across India. We were a family of five, three siblings. I have two elder brothers.
Okay. So you're the baby of the family.
Well, it's always controversial how the youngest one feels about being the youngest one. But I'm interestingly the youngest of 40 cousins.
So my God. So you're truly the baby of a very extended
I
family.
am the baby of the extended family for sure. But I think I am probably the more responsible one amongst my immediate sibling set. But I have very much been pampered by everyone else. So growing up was very, very nice because, like you said, we got to travel to places. And while it involves uprooting, it also involves experiencing different cultures, different places. And
Absolutely.
while sometimes we leave friends behind, I think at that point in time, we did a fair bit to continue the friendships. And along the way, I learned how to connect with people sooner, make meaningful relationships and relationships that last into the future. So I feel my life is much richer as a result of how we started.
And that adaptability that comes with sort of being forced to make new friends at such a young age.
True. Forced to make new friends, but also finding yourself in a situation where you become somewhere self-sufficient as well. You're not always looking at external resources and people and support systems to go through life. So there's also a lot of emotional self-sufficiency that constant moving teaches you, which is a very helpful life skill.
True. So, though it's very idyllic that you're moving across the country, and I'm sure you've been to some beautiful cities and postings, but you also mentioned off camera that your family for a while was posted in Ganganagar in Punjab when terrorism in the area was rampant. So tell us a bit more about that. How does that define you as a child or an adolescent? Because that is something, which is very unique to you as a life experience.
It's actually not so unique to me because so many army kids, I think, live through something like that.
Yeah, but to give context, because a lot of our listeners are civilians, maybe they are not aware of what life in the army entails?
It was, so I think all of us in the family, my elder brother was away at college, but the four of us truly enjoyed that tenure. My father was commanding his battalion at that point in time. He had 5 workshops between, so Ganganagar is actually on the border of Punjab and Rajasthan, but technically falls into Rajasthan, very
Okay.
close to the Pakistan border as well.
Okay.
And he had workshops. My father was an engineer, so he had workshops across Rajasthan, Punjab, and Himachal, all the way spread out
Okay.
across. So it was an interesting. It was an interesting tenure because, first of all, given the proximity to the border as well as what was going on in this neighboring state, there was a lot of security, which meant that while we traveled out for school, there were always armed guards with us. And because it was a relatively small town compared to maybe a Delhi or a Bombay at that point in time, early 90s, we spent most of our time within the cantonment.
Okay.
So while those friendships may have been fleeting, people coming and going, at best kind of staying there for a year, they're actually pretty solid friendships. So I was in class 7th at the time,
Okay.
but I still remain in touch with some of those friends. I think those are the earliest friends I think of. As an experience, the fact that it almost you numb yourself to the idea that there's two armed guards with a Sten gun that are going with
Oh,
you.
really? That fear sort of, are you saying, fades away after
I
a
think
bit?
it just becomes like part of the furniture and fixture, because where we were, there wasn't very much that was going on. I think it was when the officers went out for an exercise and they were regularly doing that, or there were incidents of if a weapon was ever lost, then you realize the gravity of the context that we were living in. But given the age we were and that
Which was?
um,
How old were you then?
class 7th and 8th, so that must have been
Okay.
13 and 14, like coming up to 14. So 12, 13, 14.
Yeah.
So not that old, but you're kind of within the cantonment. It was really quite secure. And another really interesting thing was happening at that time over there. It was a desert and it was very sandy area. And the officer commanding at the time decided that we're going to plant a golf course. So the entire cantonment was turned green. And over the 2 years that we lived there, that happened as well, that it went from a sandy desert to a lush green golf course. So I think maybe that was a little bit more at the forefront, but you kind of see the role the army plays at that point in time. So just a minute on where I picked up the phrase. 2018, I used to live in the UK and I was relocating back to India. And somewhere in the months between the two, I went on a road trip to Mexico. And in one of the artsy towns in Mexico, I went into an artist studio and found this series on migration. And she likened the soul's journey to a migrant's journey as well.
Okay.
And one of 7 of those series was titled Walking Roots. And it showcased a woman with roots going down into the earth, but kind of, leaning forward and walking, but also turning back. And the way the artist described the picture to me was that you keep moving forward, but you never forget your roots. And as you walk, you put down roots and you feel at home with the world.
Wherever you are in the world.
Wherever you are in the world and with the world and with the people. And that really, truly resonated with me because I felt at home in the UK. I was really looking forward to coming back home to India. And like you said, maybe that is an attitude that I picked up growing up because, even in those 2-year tenures, I felt very much, each of those is a beautiful chapter and I felt very much at home there. But I loved it so much.
Packing up and moving on too.
Yeah, but also like it wasn't a transitory thing. Like in between the packing up and the next packing up, there was home for 2 years. And, I read somewhere that sometimes people identify homes with the curtains that they have, not with the walls that they live within. And
very well said.
So we made home wherever we were, and I think that was a beautiful thing. And it really resonated when I saw it on the art piece. So the art piece hangs in my home in Delhi.
Okay, I would love to see it someday.
I would love to have you over to show it to you. But I loved the explanation so much that I adopted the moniker. So all credits to the artist.
So I think you were moved to buy that piece because it sort of resonated with you at a very deep level. Yeah. And you also have got some cute postcards for us to show.
Yes.
About Naina's inclusive Duniya.
Yes.
So if you can just tell us a little bit more about that.
So these postcards are really a piece of my heart. These come from, we've taken the artwork from a comic that we run called Naina's Inclusive Duniya.
Okay. Why Naina?
Why Naina? Naina is a head nod to my mother. It's something that I haven't spoken about a whole lot, but my mother's name was Sunaina.
Okay.
And when we started putting out the comic 2 years ago, it was really to answer questions that had been asked in the first year of working, intellectual disability kya hota hai, hum kya kar sakte hain. And everything that I was translating to stories as answers was really stuff that I'd learned from my mother. So that is one aspect. The second is we chose to tell these stories from the perspective of a child. So the main neurotypical character in the comic is a young girl called Naina, but it's also from her point of view. So which is where Naina comes in. So here we have Naina in the pink dress and Tanuj, who are two best friends cycling down. Tanuj has intellectual disability. And this is our core picture, but it is really about kind of celebrating neurodiversity and finding friends and allies. We also realized that a lot of people kind of connect to the mental health aspect of living with this experience, because it's an atypical experience and people may not necessarily find the support that's necessary. We also every now and then weave in like mental health stories, mental health awareness stories.
Yeah.
So this postcard over here talks about choosing thoughts wisely, whether they're prickly or pretty, and nurturing those thoughts. So nurturing positive thoughts to stay in a positive state of mind.
Yeah.
And this third one here is about how as adults we keep telling our kids that ye kaam karo, wo kaam karo. If not you, then who's going to do it? If not you, who's going to do it?
The pressure on the children.
Yeah, but here we have the postcard saying with the kids asking the adults, if not us, then who? If we don't build inclusion, then who will build inclusion? So it definitely is our responsibility. And the idea is, when we started with the comic, that Naina lives on an inclusive dunya. She goes to an inclusive school, has a motley crew of friends, and we started putting out the stories as postcards from her world, like an insight into her world,
the world we would like to see in the future.
Exactly. So and so because we put out the first story saying that we're going to be sending postcards from Naina's Dunya, the first merchandise we printed was the postcards.
Oh, how lovely. So basically talking about a lot of serious issues, but in a comic, light-hearted,
and
fun
beautiful
way.
And beautiful way.
Yeah, and creative and beautiful.
Creative and beautiful.
I love it.
Thank you. The intent was, we'd actually seen that comics as a format had worked to destigmatize a lot of serious issues. And the reason we put it on Instagram is that we want it to be freely available. Like, we do not want there to be any barriers to access to this information. So
inclusive even in the access.
Very true. Thank you for recognizing that.
So, I want to ask you, Pooja, that, you started Inclusive Duniya because you were inspired by your brother's struggle and life journey. But also as women, in different roles we play, whether it's as a daughter, a wife, a mother, I feel like women are always struggling with this inherent guilt. So, I want you to touch upon that, because we did have a little bit of these conversations off camera, where you said while you were growing up, you saw your brother not being able to reach the milestones you were reaching. So, did you feel this guilt?
For sure. And I think at some level, everyone does, even if they don't use that label, because I, through my work, remain connected to a lot of siblings of persons with disabilities. And even if they don't use the label, all of us feel a little bit of that guilt and the sense of responsibility that comes with trying to make up for that guilt. But like growing up, like I was telling you the other day, there were instances, like when I did my class 10th, because I'm the youngest, my middle brother, who has a disability, realized that he's not going to have a chance to do his class 10th. So as we've gone through life, his realization that he doesn't have the same access to opportunities has grown. And And I think in some way my realization has grown as well. And while our parents have never held us back in any way, they've always encouraged us to pursue our ambitions and potentials to the fullest. It's always been on my mind that it's unfair that he and people like him don't have access. Yeah. So the guilt is, but it's about how one channelizes that emotion
Very
to
correct.
to make something right.
Very well said. Yeah. Rather than like taking it on yourself and feeling bad about it, you channelized it in a positive manner to create an impact.
Yeah. Well, hoping to.
So a little bit about your personal life, because I think this is important. You are single currently, but you did share a little bit about your personal life. You were married.
Yes.
Now you no longer are. You're divorced. But you share a very cordial relationship with your ex-husband.
Yes.
Which is very nice for me to see as an outsider, especially in India, where we have so many of these stereotypes that, if you're getting divorced, make it ugly. Like, don't say nice things about your ex. But that is not your experience. So
It's not.
If you can tell us a little bit more about that, because I think that is very relevant and important for our listeners to hear it from you.
I think at the very core of that, Sati, is the fact that, if you've chosen at some point in time to spend your life with an individual and as part of a family, you must have seen something that was right about them. And while it may not have worked out, everything that was right is still right. It's things that you look up to, it's things that you respect, it's things that you appreciate and admire. And all of those things about him and his family remain the same. They're warm, they're a decent lot, and he's still super smart, witty, and I see no reason, because we as two people, two units coming together may not have fit very well together. It does not mean that either of us is a bad human being. Neither of us are. So I think even in the separation, we found that a little bit difficult, but in trying to work out how we could make it work, I think our understanding of each other deepened as well, and that became the bedrock of a friendship. So
I love that.
yeah, because there is respect, and there was love of a particular flavor at one point in time, and that like those things don't go away.
Love can just change its form, right?
Yeah.
Like it doesn't have to be just romantic love.
But
even with the same person.
Even with the same person, and I wouldn't say we had the sort of friendship where I'd call him every week. Wouldn't, but I mean, like, I know that he's got my back, and I hope he knows that I've got his back too if needed.
Very nice. Since 2012, you have walked for many noble causes, and now it's become something that you do annually. So how did that happen? Can you tell us a little bit more about your walks for causes? And I purposely didn't say walk for a cause, because you've done multiple walks for multiple causes.
Yes. Walks for various causes. So when I started out by walking for cancer care. I'd lost my mother to leukemia in 2007. And at some point after 2010, when I moved to the UK, I think I would see all of these posters from Cancer Research UK all over the place, because they used to run a lot of walks to build awareness and raise funds. So in 2012, encouraged by my then husband, I ended up signing up for the first walk, again as a way of kind of channelizing my emotion around the loss. And it was quite interesting, because the walk would happen in September, which was a month that mom had passed away too. So it was a really good month to be really sort of pushing all that emotion.
So it was like a homage to her, and yet like a way to channelize your emotions.
Yeah, and then after I'd done it a few times, because this is a walk that happens annually, I think people would show up to support. And I realized that it was great because it got me into the habit of long distance walking. So I started with 13 miles. Then the first year I didn't complete that. The next year I completed it. The following year I did 26 miles, and I
Oh,
did
wow.
one time I did 50 kilometers, and another time I did 100 kilometers.
So, some of the causes that you walked for?
So for the first few years, it was cancer, but then at some point I switched to working for education and
Okay.
raising funds for organizations in India.
You've walked the Camino del Santiago, and just to give context, Camino is spelled Camilo in Spanish, and it means the way, which is a 300-kilometer sacred walking pilgrimage from Porto in Portugal to Spain.
Yeah.
And I also know I'd heard about it for the first time when one of my favorite authors, Paulo Coelho, spoke about it. And he said it was literally one of the most profound spiritual moments in his life when he did this pilgrimage. And I know it's had a profound impact on you too. And you have his book with you too.
I do.
The pilgrimage, and it's all about this walk. So, how did it change you as a person?
So I think so. I walked on my own. I mean, you can walk with people. You can choose the routes. You can choose the distance. So I walked from Porto to Santiago, and I chose to walk on my own in an unsupported way. So carrying my own backpack and walking as far as I could go on the day, and stopping when I needed to. And I walked the coastal route on the Portuguese way. So there are multiple ways that go in, but the coastal route, for the most part, goes around the Atlantic Ocean. So all the time that I was walking, my thing was that I need to keep the water on the left, and I need to keep walking straight.
Wow.
And doing that for 8 hours, 10 hours a day can be a truly meditative experience. And I think in some way I actually also realized that it is like a simile for life as well, because you're walking on your own. You come down to the start of the walk on your own. You probably meet people along the way. It's good conversations. You rest when you need to. You really learn how to tune into your body and its needs. You learn how to almost, I felt a certain separation between the body and the soul.
Oh, you did?
I did, because you learn how to use the body as a vehicle, like quite literally. When
And
they
you're not
say
the body, you're the soul.
you're not the body, you're the soul, and you learn to actually truly. I think it struck me while I was doing that walk, because I would be like, I need to feed the body, and I need to rest, I need to massage my feet, and that separation is that sense of separation is truly perspective giving.
Yeah.
I did that walk while I was coming back into India and settling in. I'd spent a few months here, and that was a big experience because it was a big
Change.
it was a big change from a very sanitized environment in the UK to India. I mean, it has energy, and there's a lot going on.
And chaoticness.
Yeah, I was trying to find a more positive sounding word. It is.
No, but I mean, we are chaotic, and I embrace it, and it's amazing. But it's different from the West.
Yeah. But and suddenly you kind of go like, for a moment, have I made the right decision? So I think I needed to also go away and spend some time on my own to reflect on that, and reflecting on that also, I think, made me realize that I'm truly committed to this as my life's purpose, and then what do I need to embrace along the way to make it work? So it helped me recalibrate my own thinking as I settle back in.
And you're embarking on another very exciting rally this summer, spanning 30 countries.
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yes, I have a very exciting rally coming up. So I, along with two of my friends, we're doing the Mongol Rally this year, July and August. It's something that I wanted to do for about 12, 13 years now. first learned about it in 2010. It's an unsupported rally organized by an organization called the Adventurous
Oh, wow.
in the UK,
Okay.
where the only criteria is that you drive a small car less than 1200 cc, hopefully beaten down, and start from one point and end in another, and do it for a charitable cause. So the three of us signed up for it at the back end of 2021, having gone through the second wave. At some point in the second wave, we were like, we need to do this. So
Okay.
when the registrations opened, we signed up for it. We've been planning it for the last year and a half and are terribly excited about it. So,
Wow.
uh, 3 women, 30 countries, 30,000 kilometers.
A lot of threes there.
A lot of threes there. We worked hard to get to the 30,000 kilometer route, but we're going to be on the road for 53 days. It's going to be
Wow.
a little bit more than the actual rally period, but it's because we want to also, we've set the goal of 30,000 kilometers. We're going to be doing that, and we're doing it for charitable causes. I'm doing it for Inclusive Duniya.
Wow. I love it. Before we come to the end of the conversational segment of the podcast, my last question to you is, if you were to look back at your life, and what would you say to the 20-year-old Pooja?
Keep the faith and keep walking, because there's a whole lot that life throws our ways, like a lot of curveballs, which may feel like the end of the world, but nothing ever is. And if you keep walking, things have a way of sort of working out. Life has a way of working out, so just keep going.
Walking routes.
Walking routes. Yeah.
Okay. We now have a fun segment planned for you. And
Can't wait.
And it is with a very good friend of yours,
Can't wait for that
Neha,
too.
who knows you really well. So, on that note, can we have Neha, please?
Hello.
So good to you all the time. It's always a pleasure. Hi, Suti.
Hello.
Yeah, so my dear friend.
I almost feel like friend here, though. What have you got on your questions list?
No, yeah, you've been a friend who's always taught me on every instance, every conversation we've had. You have given a different aspect to me of what you are doing. I'm yet to discover a lot. And today as well, I was hearing you. So many things that I did not know.
You're
Especially
too kind.
Ganganagar part, I definitely did not know.
Lived in Ganganagar for 2 years.
Yeah, wow, that was something. So our listeners are too curious to know the fun side of you now.
Okay.
Are you ready?
I am ready, I think.
Cool. So, the question is, I wish I was born in dash country.
UK.
I thought so.
I love it. I love it there. Didn't think I would, but I do.
I know you love that place. One thing that Western world has adopted from us, like from India, and we are going away from it.
Spirituality. I think we spoke about it as well.
Yeah.
A lot of yoga and spirituality comes from the East, and I don't think we weave it into our daily lives the way Westerners who adopt that as a philosophy do.
It's packaged by the West and resold to us in a
Yes.
lot of instances.
Yeah.
Yoga and
But
everything.
but also kind of truly adopting it as part of our lifestyle,
Yeah.
in every single way. I would think that, maybe people who adopt that over there end up doing that a little bit more wholesomely.
Right. Okay. Do you prefer to work traditionally or digitally?
Mostly digitally, but I do miss the office environment a fair bit. Yeah. The society of being in an office environment.
Yes, you've experienced that.
I have, and now I work from home, and I love it. And our team is distributed across 5 people across 5 different cities. But I would love it if at some point they could come together.
Nice. Your happy place.
My library, with my dog right next to me.
I was waiting when you will talk about him.
Yeah, she is adorable.
Sorry, yeah.
Uma.
Uma. Ah, cute.
If you could eat only one food for the rest of your life, what would it be?
You wouldn't believe this, but
To know that.
scrambled egg with wilted spinach.
Really?
Yeah,
So you're a breakfast person.
I'm definitely a breakfast
Yeah.
person, but I would eat that. I would have said pulao because I make my nani's recipe of pulao really well and it's comfort food, but I cannot possibly be eating pulao every meal, so it would be scrambled eggs and spinach.
A gift you would like to receive: a bottle of wine or a book?
Why not both? Why not both?
If given a choice, your preference would be?
I think wine.
You
Very
have enough
honest.
books in your library.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah, maybe a bottle of wine. Yeah.
Perfect. Your favorite book as a child?
Can I give two?
Yeah, of course.
One is Illusions by Richard Bach, and an author I like very much. But I think as somebody who is spiritually inclined, reading that book at a very, very young age made me realize that it's all in your mind. You know, what you set your mind to, you can make happen. And it's a book that I've gifted to at least 2 dozen people.
Age?
When did I read it first? Sometime in my teens, early teens.
Early teen.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the second one, Gone with the Wind. I have read
Scarlett O'Hara.
Scarlett O'Hara. I'll think about it tomorrow.
Yes, yeah.
But it's a book.
Iconic.
My aunt was a big reader, and she had, every time I visited her, I would go, and every holidays I would go to her place for a few days, and I would read the entire book. Yeah, I've read it numerous times.
Wow. Okay, in a car rally, would you drive or navigate?
Bit of both, because when you're navigating, you're responsible for the music. And driving too, I enjoy both.
All right. Sari or a business suit?
Sorry, any day.
Stand-up comedy show or a music concert?
Music concert.
Okay. Belly dancing or Zumba?
Can I say none? But if I have to pick one, Zumba.
Zumba.
Yeah.
All right. Fame or money?
Money. I mean, again, I would have probably said neither, but money.
Okay, between the two.
Between the two, money.
One thing that you want to experiment or explore? That has
Because there's
been-
use for money.
There is?
There is good use for money.
Yeah. Yeah, that I agree.
And you
have
can
lot
choose.
you have a lot of purposes to use that.
And you
for.
can choose what you use the money for.
Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah.
That's very interesting. Good. So, one thing that you want to experiment or explore and has been on your mind for quite some time now?
Writing. So I do write a little bit in small bits, but I feel like there's a book in there. so
There
writing.
definitely is.
Yes, we've been always talking. When I and Steve were talking about you, you have a lot to tell. So we were like, she has a lot of stories to tell.
I was
Maybe
like, I've
this podcast
already
will be
had a
short enough.
podcast before the actual podcast.
And I do have stories, but I also feel like, you know, people express themselves in different ways, and I think the written form is my way.
All right.
But to take out time for, you know, writing a book is discipline, and it's something that I have attempted before, but it's not found the time for. So I'd love to make the time for it.
Very nice. Okay.
Lovely.
So here we are because she can. So one thing or one instance where you felt inside you that this is, maybe I cannot do that, or I'm a little confused, but you did it. And then you felt, because I can, and I did it.
Walking story. So on the Camino that we spoke about earlier, I was walking on my own. It was pretty hot. I was carrying all my stuff on my back, and on one of those days, I lost my way. So I lost the ocean, and at some point I started following the Google map, and I knew where I needed to go was pretty far, and on the map it became even further, and I was a little bit concerned because I was walking on a main street with no pavement, so I kind of had to walk on the cobbles, and I felt like I would have to give up. And then when I actually opened the map, I saw it was 9.86 kilometers. And I thought to myself, bus 10 kilometer hi to hai. And this was after having done about 20 odd kilometers. And the moment I said it, it was just like, who is this person?
Wow.
And then I ended up walking it, and I think I was telling
told
the
me.
story that somewhere along the way it became really uphill through an industrial area, then it became downhill across a stream, and I'm very scared of water. So I had to cross the stream on a log, and that day, those last 2-3 hours of walking across the stream, I think were completely life-changing for me, because now I feel like I can do anything. Wow. You know, I just need to invoke for help, keep focused on the next step, only the next step, and I can do anything. So that was truly life-changing.
Wow, that is very inspiring. Thank you so much. You were brilliant in
Thank
the
you.
not so very rapid answers that we had, but
You didn't raise your hand saying make it rapid.
no, just kidding. But we wanted to know the stories though, and the questions were not very rapid.
The questions were not like
Yeah, they were like very descriptive
the
questions.
book and the wine. I told you rapidly that I wanted both.
Yeah. So, but there is no award for the same. But a huge thanks to you
Thank you.
for being here.
Thank you, Pooja. This has been so inspiring. And you're truly leading a life full of purpose and service. I'm sure a lot of listeners will be very inspired and motivated after hearing your life journey. Pooja, before we let you leave the studio, we have a little tradition here at Because She Can. We want to present you with a token of our appreciation, and for that, I welcome our chairperson for YFlow Delhi, Divya.
Thank you.
Hi, Pooja. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Absolute pleasure, absolute delight.
It was a delight being here.
Hi. Thank you.
Hello, welcome. So, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for
And
having me.
This is a little something for you.
Really appreciate it. Thank you.
And before we give you a memento, have a small question for you. This is a Because She Can memento with your name on it.
Perfect. Awesome. I love that. It's going to go on my desk.
Yeah. So, what does Because She Can mean for you?
I think the first time I heard the phrase, it just felt like a very expansive sense of possibilities. That because she can, she should do it. Like, and
Wow.
the she being me, like, you know, because
Oh,
I can,
lovely.
I
Oh,
should
lovely.
feel free to dream and pursue.
I love that.
That's amazing.
That's a very
I think
good
that's one of the
interpretation.
strongest
Yeah.
responses I've got is Because She Can means possibilities.
Possibilities. So it's very expansive, heart opening. Well chosen name.
Thank you. And for
Thank you.
Thank you.
guys, for our photo op.
Thank you.